I mean, I could totally do that all day. It's so great.
They were about to go on tour, and Beck traditionally would do a nice warm-up gig. So they did this warm-up show, and then Joey had that kit. And it was funny because it was around Christmas. And I took my mom, which was hilarious.
You brought your mom to that gig?
I brought my mom to that gig, yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And then, but what was funny is because he had 20 toms to play, there was a fill every 4 bars the whole night.
Yeah.
Just, dude, he was shredding the whole night. And I was just going, this is amazing. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Of course.
He was shredding the whole night. But it was so rad that every time a fill would happen, like James J would go. And then another fill would happen, and then Beck would stop singing and turn around and go. And not like, like, what are you doing? Like,
right.
So, yes, that's how it came to passion, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and the kit was so funny because basically it was a joke. Yeah. My friend called me, and Scott, like in the, wait, do you know?
Yes.
No. Oh yeah, you've met him. He runs Istanbul Cymbals, and he was like, dude, if you play this on that Beck gig, I'll buy the kit for you. And it was $150 in classified. And we just thought it was funny because it was this gigantic white concert tom kit, which is just so uncool or whatever. And I was like, well, I don't have a big enough car, but if you drive me down there, I'll just buy it. It's $150, but so we went down and picked it up and brought it to whatever I don't know where we brought it. Like, we never rehearsed with it or anything.
Oh, to the gig.
So yeah, it was just kind of like I knew Beck would think it was
cool.
Funny, and we all thought it was cool and funny, and yeah, and I didn't know, how fun it was, and I didn't know that it was going to sound so. I mean, I figured it would sound kind of cool, but I didn't realize how good it was going to sound.
In like the mid 2000s, when we started working together more and more, I got to see your collection of instruments in various scenarios, and I'm like, oh, that kit does dead really well. Oh, that kit does live really well. Oh, that snare is great for dead and low pitched. Oh, this snare is great for cranked up high, or take the dampening off and it rings like for a day. I learned cymbals, rides, hi-hats. Like I really got, and then I don't consider myself a drum tech, but I can sit down at a kit and kind of tune a kit up, where a lot of musicians can't do that.
Right.
To get it to sound, because it is a hard thing when you whack a drum or hit a drum snare in a room like this. To your ear, it could sound really good, but when you put a mic on it and isolate it and listen to it in the control room, oh, there's no attack, there's no tail to it.
But yeah, and then I think I'm probably more like, probably more on the spectrum of like someone who brings in a shitload of stuff, like different options, like as if they were different guitars and pedals or something.
There's always options.
Yeah, so like I think there are, there's it's a valid, wonderful thing where there's, drummers like, I have the drum set, and this is what it is, and I make it, and I do my thing, and it sounds great.
Right.
But yeah, I'm definitely like, cool, I've got the 20s kit here, and the 80s kit here, and I like different sounds.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, usually I start with the kick drum, and the reason I start with the kick drum is because I need to get the stands in there. The kick drum stands in first. It's more of an ergonomic thing than it is anything else. So since we don't have a front head, I'm just going to mic it up like I would with, in this instance. So, like I said, we're just going to use the 2 mics just because, hey, these are great examples of 2 rad Lauten audio mics on a kick drum. And if I just get them lined up, that looks about right.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Did you angle the Clarion?
Not on purpose.
Oh, okay. I'm so
No, funny enough, no, not on,
not on purpose. Okay.
funny, it was just the way I was looking at it. I thought I needed to angle it.
'Cause
No,
I
I'm
was
just
wondering
going flat,
Okay, flat.
straight at it.
Mm-hmm. That just gets the thing you want. Like if you
Yeah.
angle it, does it soften the sound? Or yeah,
I
it's
imagine
just-
it would soften it.
it's like
Soften
you're
the beater.
Right, you're like turning the capsule away
Right.
from it.
I've heard people talking about where you can think of like the beater head as almost like the center cone of a guitar amp. And a lot of times I like to mark off the side of that mic, aim the mic focal point off the side of the cone.
Totally.
The same instance of that. But
I
quite
get it.
frankly, I've never played with it.
Right.
I just haven't. I've never been on one of those gigs where we've gotten drum sounds for 5 days. So, fortunately.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Don't jinx it.
Moving the mic around in the source is kind of like tuning the instrument to the microphone, so to speak. And so I'm looking for a combination of low end and attack, with putting the mic sort of at the rim of where the front head would normally live. I feel like I get a great balance of attack and low end. And then I've seen some engineers, well, for example, like the Glenn Johns trick, the mic would sit here. In most scenarios, that would be kind of okay. It wouldn't be great in like a band setting, though. So I feel like I'm in the middle of that, where the mic is far enough in the drum where I'm keeping the bleed of the other instruments down to a minimal, but yet I'm still getting low end and attack. That's my thought process behind it. So here lies the problem of this instance, and I'm sure this is an issue for a lot of engineers trying to get a microphone into a scenario with, depending on where the drummer how he likes to play and how he likes to set up. I think I'll be okay there. I do need to move the hi-hat. Okay, it's great. For this, an interesting thing happens, and I can't control the angle that much. Let me just make sure it's locked down. I should be okay there. This is my hi-hat mic, but I'm going to use it as an illustration. If you go off the rim in that way, this is where snare miking and drum miking can become a fun thing. I see a lot of people do this, which it's weird. You get a lot of, I hear low end mud with the mic this way. It's odd. Almost too much billowing. I don't know why. So the more you move it, angle it, the more you remove that and get more attack out of the instrument. However, if you go too far, you get all attack and no body. So there's a little bit of a sweet spot in there. However, with this crazy configuration, I'm pretty much stuck. I can't change my angle too much of the microphone. It is what it is, and it's fine. Because for me, number one is drummer comfortable, musician comfortable first. Me too. I'll put my mics where I can get them. Oh yeah, I bumped that. Switch. There we go. Cool.
You keep it flat.
I keep it flat. The one thing about the 208 that's rad, so rad, is I can put the snare mic right here, and I'm not going to get much hi-hat bleed. One of your competitors that's very popular, as soon as I start, especially if the drum is not tuned well and the musician, isn't that solid of a player, where I have to start doing more and more processing. All that processing is going to bring out this more and more. There's luckily some plugins and tricks that I can either grab this and tame it and bring it down literally in the balance and the blend. Thank God. Thank you, Sound Radix. I'll just name drop them right now. Or in some cases, just gate it completely and remove it. Because it could be a useful tool of oh, the hi-hat sounds good because it's bleeding into the snare top mic, but it's 5 dB too loud. That is the big issue of some of the other mics that I've ran into a lot. And can I say it? I've been like, oh, I'm going to put so-and-so mic. It's my standard go-to. And then I start EQing it and I start compressing it. And then, holy cow, the snare's really... I've done it too. So it wasn't until I changed my mind a couple of years ago, Brian, and I called you and I said, why didn't I do this so many years? I don't know. So now it works great for that.
Great.
It works
Well,
amazing.
you're capturing at the source, which is what you want to do.
I'm capturing just the source. Right. And in my mind, I know I can do whatever processing to the source without bringing in other unwanted noise or instruments into that source. Because the snare is going to be pretty predominant in my mix. It's the way it is. Snare bottom, snare bottom's just snare bottom. Just goes buzz. Goes buzz. I don't know. So I back off a couple inches, and funny enough, I watched Alan Sides do this, my old boss. That's how he kind of placed his snare bottom mic at that, just to give it a little bit of the energy, a little bit of time to build up, the frequency to build up to where it's just getting more low end out of it. And I really feel like it's true. But once again, depending on what we're doing, I don't know if we'll need it, especially with Joey.
The old thing I learned was literally like somebody put their finger in the middle like of the drum like that, and then you can kind of see if the pitches are lining up.
Which they are.
It's a little higher, but
That was lower.
yeah, you can hear the pitch, and you know, so it's. I mean, theoretically, they should all be the same.
Theoretically,
but that doesn't necessarily. That's a good starting point, and then you might tweak and arrive at something that's cool. But then also, like for me at this point, after so many years of doing that, like if I hit it and it sounds pretty good like that, I'm not gonna change it yet. That's the other thing I've learned from working with Darrell is like, yeah, like, hey, wait a minute, let's see where we're at first. Like, yeah, let's see if it might sound great already. Like, you don't need to start tweaking just for the sake of doing it. I am remembering, like, I did learn because, well, God, being a kid and making, like, with a band, making, like, 4-track tapes. We even, like, trial by fire just from experience. And then the first bands and recording experiences where, it was like, I was definitely that guy. It's like, hey, the snare sounds kind of blocky. I'm like,
sounds fine to me.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I was lucky to learn, and I guess I'm just into it. So I like all I cared about was the sound of the instrument. Man, hi-hat miking is one of the weird, tricky ones for me. So it's like,
I don't know. I'm not sure what it's a hi-hat.
right. I mean, yeah, it's like, but I find like if you do it, it's like you might just be getting, oh, it's another kit mic. It's not really getting, I always like,
yeah.
Or like, oh, I'm pointing it at the wrong part somehow. Like, or like I had one where like I was pointing it away from the drum set at an angle because I saw that in a session and I was like, that must be how you do it. And it just sounded, it was just like a lot of weird low end from the edge of the cymbal.
Interesting.
I mean,
Sounded
honestly,
terrible.
that's usually what I do in this scenario. Is I kind of you're going to be hitting the hi-hat here. I mean, I am a little concerned because, well, I don't know, dude, but your hi-hat stand itself is it's pretty tall.
Yep.
So when I put a mic cable on it, it's going to be another so this could be an issue.
Yeah. I mean, it ain't gonna. I think it is weird, but I'll be okay.
But see, you would be okay. But
I'd be okay, but like someone else
would not be okay.
who's not used to it might be, yeah, like that. This is weird.
Right.
But yeah, I get you. Right, because it's gonna be.
Yep. And so in that case, if that happened, I can cheat. Because usually, and I can just do this instead where it's, but I try to make it a point to, between each take, walk out. Because stuff does get all the time. So, and funny enough, that is a point of.
Yes, I've seen it. I've witnessed it.
Yeah, it is a
Done it.
point of.
Like, that take, somebody bumped the, yeah.
Yeah.
I do try to, instead of making the stand go this way, where it's completely in the path of resistance, turn the stand like this. So at least it's a little bit more, it's out of the way.
Well, then you get the whole like homes thing that's so crazy with like, I don't have space for stands.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you're like, what do I do?
Yeah, I can't imagine somebody like if they had a kit like this and they were recording in their bedroom.
And there's no room for
There's
stands.
no room.
Yeah.
I mean, toms are toms, dude. Just, it's a little bit of the same situation that I'm thinking of the snare. I'm trying to get a nice angle between removing that low mid. I was mentioning earlier, Joey, I don't know if you've ever noticed doing your live gigs, especially live gigs, where the person takes and they point the mic.
Always.
But then you hit the snare and it goes, oop, oop, oop. It's just a phenomenon of the instrument.
Yeah.
So there is like a sonic sweet spot of angle of attack that I'm trying to go for. But then at the same token, in instances like this, where usually almost always the hi-hat's in the way of where I can angle.
Right.
So it's a little bit of both worlds. So, but usually toms though, I'm sometimes okay. Usually the floor tom is an issue because of the ride. But actually your cymbals are pretty clear, so I'm just going to go with. And
Right. So on the toms, if it's for you, if it's like if it was a flat angle like that, just like looking right at the head.
Correct.
That's too much like for that's
too
gonna
much
get,
proximity.
You're going to get too much low mid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dig it.
Dig it. Yeah, and see, here's the fun part of the logistical, where can I get the stand in?
Yeah, you got a lot of feet going on.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not too bad with these, but there's a bunch of studios in LA and Nashville, funny enough. They all have the massive Atlas triangle heavy, which are great because a mic is not going to fall over with those things. But man, negotiating those suckers around a kit
Hell.
can be, is a mathematical challenge. Tetris.
Right.
Microphone-based Tetris.
And bad for your
I
back.
can't imagine like Neil Peart's kit. The drummer will be Neil Peart today. Okay. So I'm trying to get the mic close to the rim, and I'm also pointing the capsule right at the center. And I'm going at I feel like a 45-ish, or maybe like a 30. By the way, always check your switches before you place your mic. Because I've had that happen where I pick,
Something sounds weird.
well, no, I pick a particular mic because that's all available at the moment in time, and then I look at it's an Omni.
Right.
So funny enough, I like to sit at the kit, and then I can really kind of see. Oh, there we go. There we go. That looks good. This guy's a little. Dude, when you called me, whenever this line came out, when you called me and you was like, hey, I'm working on something, and I think I could talk to you about it now. I was like, okay. What's the 208 and the 308 line? All right, what's it do? And it's like, well, the 208 does this, but then the 308 does that. The 208 does this amazing noise rejection thing. And it's a large diaphragm condenser. And I was like, oh, really? Well, funny enough, I like to use large diaphragm condensers on toms. It's always my go-to mic of choice. We used to use C12As at Ocean Way because why not?
Because you could, yeah.
However, they did not work well when the drummer was a basher. That is called a drummer missed. And he was going for it. That was the fill of his lifetime. I am in the groove. Oh shit, whack.
There are a couple others.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny to look at that tape, that shelf.
But for me, it was the immediate aspect was the noise rejection. I can, especially, for example, this one, this floor tom is going to be one of the most offenders of microphone just because it's living under the ride cymbal, which is usually the case for most drummers. Or there's two floor toms, and the cymbal sits right here. Once again, it's about drummer being comfortable. That's the way he's positioned and used to playing. Mm-hmm. I don't want to move him around very much. And some drums where their toms sit really high and their cymbals are low to the rim. And so I'm like, dude, can I raise your cymbal up, a couple inches here? Oh yeah, that's usually okay. Mm-hmm. But still, I've only got so much room to get a microphone in there.
Right.
So for me, it was just the noise rejection. When I heard how much the 308s reject the cymbal bleed, it was just a game changer for me. Plus, it's an amazing sounding condenser. I get so much attack and punch out of these mics with the toms. If there is any cymbal bleed, I can either do some very, very light noise gating in the mix just to control the bleed of the drums. But in most cases, I probably don't have to gate. There's so much noise canceling going on with the cymbals. And I've played it for him. I've played it for numerous people because I have to admit, a lot of people are always like snooping around and they see this weird hammer mic on the instrument and they go, Darrell, what is that? And I go, but then point number two, they hear it for the first time. They hear a drum fill and go, what, why did toms just jump out of the speakers all of a sudden? So for me, these are always in my bag. I'm going to the studio to track, grab my bag. So for overheads, especially the stereo overheads, I mean, funny enough, I used to be a big Cole, like ribbon fan on the overheads, and quite frankly, you still can't go wrong. But when Brian, you sent me these 220s to try out, I started putting them around everywhere, and then I put them on overheads one day, and then I pushed the faders up, and I was sold immediately. There's just some magical juju going on in that capsule that makes it, because it's weird. I don't think of the overheads as cymbal mics. It's a part of the drum kit to me. It's capturing the a lot of the frequencies that develop over the course of inches and feet into your mic. And so it's part of the sound. I'm not just placing little pencil mics to get pss, pss. I want the entire, it helps with the imaging of the kit to me. But for whatever reason, the 220s, I feel like there's a three-dimensional, like it's almost like I'm standing up over the kit and I'm looking down and I'm seeing the snare get hit and feeling the air kind of come up to me through the speakers. It's just a weird phenomenon. I mean, and I've used 251s, C12As, 47 tubes. I mean, you name it. I've had the collection at my fingertips to try on overheads, and these are in my to-go bag. I throw these on overheads. I throw the 308s on the toms, and these on the overheads, and the 308 on the snare. That's my go-to point. If you look at the kick drum, like as in a cross, if there's an imaginary line, this is a line, and then the other line's in the middle of the kick drum here, so there's a cross. That's how I like to place my overheads, where I'm getting the imaging going on. So if I'm following this line, and then I start angling up, yeah. And then I keep them the same height. So, and now, I just check my plane this way. So that way when I go in and I start getting sounds, I push the overheads up and I pan them hard left and right immediately, and that way I'm hearing the imaging. And then I'm hearing the imaging of the splat, and I'm hearing the imaging of the snare, the toms going around. But, and this is a point to where I have to ask the musician, like, you know, is that okay? Joey, I know I'm fine. And Joey, I know I can go lower if I want. Some drummers are, so I have to, what's your style? How do you like to play, dude? And that's usually a question I ask somebody who I'm working with for the first time. Like, hey, dude, are you a flailer, or are you kind of like tight and contained? You know, where can I go? And most will say, oh, that's good. You can go a little lower if you want. I kind of think that a lot of people just approach it at the overheads as like they're trying to capture the cymbals. And I've learned a long time ago that the overheads are just another part of the entire, it's an image of the entire kit. However, I'm spoiled. I'm in a beautiful studio in Los Angeles. And I'm also can get a phone call to go to another beautiful studio in Hollywood tomorrow. Great environments. If you're in your bedroom or your living room or something like that, that's going to change the element. Like, how tall is the ceiling? Is it plaster, or, you know, you might have to start thinking about putting a packing blanket up there to keep the noise rejection down a little bit, like the high-end information is bouncing off the top of the roof or whatever it is, or making a makeshift dead room. But it just depends on what are you going for? What are you trying to do and achieve? We cut the last Foo Fighters record in a house with no, oh no, I'm lying to you. There was, what, 3 of those baffles? Just to keep the containment of the room, the living room, out of the direct mics a little bit. So that was the only
But
treatment.
they were just traditional plaster ceiling, like
Right,
drywall.
vaulted.
Vaulted.
So that helped.
Yeah. But still, must have been splashy.
Right next to the fireplace. We kept the furniture in there, and we kept the rugs in there. Because we were talking about, hey, Darrell, you want anything out? I was like, no, leave it. Sound absorption. So that's something to think about. Thanks, Oliver. This guy, this is usually this is going to be a big part of the core sound of the drum kit, the kick, snare, and mono overhead. That's going to be the main. I mean, Joey, I can't say how many records we've made where it's just a kick mic, a snare top, and the mono overhead, and you call it a day.
Absolutely. The whole, yeah, that's it. That's all you really need.
Less is more. It's just like, but it's just like in traditional rock recording scenario, that's not.
It's not going to work.
That's not going to work.
No.
But for cool acoustic, Beck,
Yeah.
Priscilla,
Right. You might just, you're not going
kick,
to
snare, overhead.
use those three.
Yep. Just your favorite kick mic, favorite snare mic, and a mono overhead. And done. Call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
So many records this way. Same thing height-wise. So in this instance, I'm just going right over in the middle of it. But it's funny because it's really a part of how this mic picks up some tone of the snare and also some,
Hey, Darrell,
yeah,
did you check your switches?
yeah, I did. The tone of the snare and some holy cow, this mic's heavy. And some knockiness of the kick drum. Make sure that doesn't fall on your head, Joey.
Yeah.
Although, Joey, in this instance, could you have a seat for me?
Absolutely.
How low can I go?
Oh, you know me.
I'm gonna go. How about
I'm used to being really low, but because we're trying to do fancy pants fills,
maybe
and
I'll
the
just,
toms
how about
are-
there?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great. I know I'm used to it being.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's rad.
Wow.
Yeah, but that is, that's us.
Yeah. But in this
This'll
case,
be
you know,
Yeah, I
Right,
can see
this'll
not
be-
all drummers being okay with that.
exactly.
It is a thing you got to learn as a player. It's like part of.
And what I feel the most
Technique.
bad
But
is
that's
usually he's fine with it, but what happens is my dumb ass tells him to look at the snare, and he bends over and fiddles with something, and then comes back up and then bumps his head. Always.
All day.
And then there's and usually Pro Tools is a Marlene, but I mean that day I probably get 30 fucks.
Exactly.
But you can't do that in an instance, and we know the amount of fills he's going to do here. So you're like,
Correct.
No way, can't do it. Right?
Yeah. Especially if it's that kick snare overhead thing, just go like almost to his forehead height.
Yeah.
And if he's just like playing a groove, and it's rad. It just sounds so in your face and intimate. I was at United Studio B. It might have been with Beck. Then a very good friend of mine, the late and great Doug McKean, he unfortunately died this year. He was working in A, and I barged in his room to say hello to him and chat with him for a minute, and then I looked out at his miking techniques, and I noticed that he had his room mics off the ground. And I thought to myself, that's so smart.
What do you mean off the ground?
I'm about to show you.
Okay.
In a room mic, I'm always looking for the sound of air being moved. And most people, including myself for years, was thinking, well, it's a room mic. It should be on a big ass stand, high up in the air like an orchestra.
Yeah.
That's all high end. The last thing I want out of a drum kit is more high end. Especially when the drummer's sitting there going. So watching Doug's trick of him turning the mic just like this, I was like, that's so smart. Why didn't I think of that? To the point to where he walked in on my session a couple years later and saw it, and that motherfucker stole my miking technique. He got really mad. It was hilarious. So I want to hear that air pushing. I want kind of like,
It makes sense.
because when you hear, when Nirvana comes on the radio, like dun, dun, that, you just hear the air pushing. And that's always in my mind. I was trying to achieve for years and years and years. And then, so it wasn't until I just stole Doug's trick. Because I can usually compress the snot out of these guys and get a lot of energy going. And I'm getting, and man, as a mix engineer, when I get drums and I push I'm starting to mix and I start pushing the room mics up, and then all it is cymbal. It's like, oh, dude. I'm trying to eliminate all the stuff that I usually end up fixing in other people's recordings. Dude, I don't know. Call it experience, call it pure and simple naiveness. Just their listening environment is not great, so they can't hear the fact that the room mics are just all. The cymbals themselves are really thin, inexpensive, so they're just splashy, spilly. The drummer is just bashing with all of his might on his right hand. And that is sometimes an instance of conversations with the drummer is like, hey, dude, can you back off the cymbals 50%? Is that going to mess with your head? Oh, really? Yeah, sometimes they're okay with it. Sometimes they can do it, and sometimes it depends on the scenario. Or how many times have you gotten the request to not play cymbals to get a big room sound and then overdub cymbals?
Yep.
That's another.
Yeah, that's where I feel like I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to figure these kinds of things out, and it creates, for me anyway, it's like, oh, I'm going to be really versatile. I'm just going to see, I think I can do that. Right. But at first it was, because it's probably anything, but like you're used to the sound of your ride cymbal and you've been playing shows with your band or whatever, and then suddenly
you can't play it anymore?
You can't play it anymore, or you're supposed to play it softer somehow, or like, there's this new cymbal and it just doesn't feel the same. Right. And it's like throws you off, in every way. So it's a tough one.
I bet.
So, yeah.
Did you go home and practice after that? Like
practice.
Trying to play different ways?
Just practice and mindset, like, oh my gosh, I have to, be mentally prepared for that kind of thing. And then it was hard for a long time, for years. And then it suddenly like clicks in and you're like, oh wow, okay. And then for me, I just end up like collecting different instruments. So I'm like, learn like, oh, this kind of cymbal gets the sound that we're looking for in this scenario. True. With like an overhead that's compressed a lot.
True. Interesting. Working with Joey years ago, I can remember distinctively, I kind of learned my lesson. We were getting drum sounds, and he was just playing kick, snare, hat. Just sitting there grooving away while I got levels, and I started putting compressors on the overhead. And then I got this rad, like, oh my God, this is the best drum sound I've ever gotten. Yes, I'm good. And then Joey does a fill, and I could see him. He goes, literally, but the compressor goes. And like a dumbass, I go, Joey, can you not hit your cymbals so hard? And then you looked at me like, what are you talking about, dude? I barely tapped it, and Gus was there. So our buddy Gus chimed in and was like, dude, he barely tapped that. And I went, oh, okay. And I just had to go over and just like back way off.
That sucks.
I mean, you know. But me personally, I'm not a big fan of let's separate the drum kit from the cymbals. I just don't like that.
You would rather get the whole thing
Yeah, and figure a way around it, change the instrument itself, or change the miking to it doesn't feel.
I know, yeah, it's almost like turning into a drum machine at that point.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel congealed that way to me.
Because I know when, like with the home recording thing or like being on location, sometimes that's when the cymbals seem to be
Sure.
the worst offenders, and you're like,
Sure.
like, oh God, can we, even like hi-hats, but then it's like you might as well just program everything
Right.
at that point when you're layering.
That, I mean, honestly, that could be a very big point of contention. Is I just feel like a lot of people who are recording themselves at their home, they probably just have a really, I don't want to say the word bad, because every instrument has its place, right?
Yeah.
Everything has its place, but if you're going for something particular, that might not be the correct instrument that's going to achieve the goal you're looking for.
Yeah.
That, you know, a
Doesn't matter
thinner,
what
brighter
doesn't
cymbal
matter
that.
what microphone you put on there, you need to change the instrument.
Yeah, it's the instrument.
Yeah.
It is the instrument.
Oh, and it is hard. Like that's been one of the frustrations for me is like when I was younger, particularly like go to the music store and they're like, this is the really,
The latest and greatest.
yeah, and I'm like, I'm looking for a really dark crash cymbal that's kind of quiet, but that'll do the thing. And they're, you know, it's not going to be the same when you get in your space.
Yep.
And that's a hard one. Like, how do you do that? Like, you know.
I mean, dude, you show up
Gets
usually, yeah. And you show up with 4 cymbal bags usually.
Yep.
You got something darker? Yes.
Solve the problem at the source, whether it's the instrument or the microphone.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's that's session guys, unfortunately, that's what they do, you know. Hey, do you got this? Yes, I do.
As a matter of fact.
As a matter of fact, yes, I do. So we placed all the mics, and I'm sure you can hear in the room. The drummer's just going to town in there. He's just going to be out there playing some time for me. And I'm going to go through the mics one by one and just make sure I'm getting level, and then check my level, and then start checking phase at the same time. Okay. So first one's the kick. There's the kick. Sounds like a kick. Sounds good.
What are you listening for?
How much low end I'm getting out of the drum. That's flat. No EQ yet. How much beater head. Also making sure, funny enough, a lot of times there's like drummers have this old squeaky pedal. That's, you know, and the mic will pick it up, so. Most of the times I solo up the kick in bass drum in mic in a mix, and I hear it, and the first thing I notice is it's all attack, and there's no low end, 0 low end.
Which probably means they have it too close to the beater.
Which means it's either too close to the beater, or the drum itself is tuned too high, so it needs to be lower pitch. The front head is also too high in pitch and needs to be lowered. Or to remove the front head to begin with and dampen the whole drum down so you get more low end.
Okay.
That's usually, you know, first points to check.
Right.
Or is is the drum the wrong instrument? Some drums don't record that well, quite frankly. So that's the in, in this case, that's the 208. So let's hear this is the Clarion. Woo, lots more low end. Love it. That sounds lovely. But if I,
But see, now you don't have that attack, right?
correct. But what if I put the two together? So that's the 208 and the Clarion together, and then I do that. So there you go. That's a pretty darn good kick drum sound.
Yeah, can you get that for a sample library?
Yeah. But in this instance, we're not going to EQ.
Right.
But still, that's kind of in the realm of like what a 70s bass drum sound would be. The two mics there. In this case, I could technically pad the Clarion. It is hitting the preamp a little hot, about 5 dB too hot. But honestly, I'm not distorting, and I'm liking the sound what's going on. So I feel like if I put a pad in front of it, it's not going to change the tone, but what it is going to do is going to change how hard it's hitting the preamp, and that itself has some little magic juju sizzle. So sometimes that's kind of cool when you're hitting your preamps a little. You know, one engineer that I worked with, and I didn't necessarily respect his direction, his sonic direction the whole time, but he did tell me, he's like, no, I like to run my preamps as hot as I can before distortion because it makes them come alive.
Right.
And I'm getting energy out of them, and that's what I want. And I was, that makes sense. So right now I'm basically 6 dB in the line of where I need a pad, but all I got to do is lower my output fader and I'm okay. However, the Neves start at 20 dB a gain. So on the bass drum, it's for the most, it's almost too hot,
Okay.
especially for condenser mics. So I'll leave these two mics recording, and let's hear what the snare is doing. Oh, okay. So there's our snare top. Just getting level, and then, of course, once again, because of the 208 and the rejection that it's got, like barely hearing the hi-hat in that. Just making sure it's doing a really good job of. There's a little hi-hat. Of course, there's a smidge of hi-hat bleed in there, but it's not.
Right.
That's never going to get out of control. Let's just check snare bottom. Insane amount of low end. Snare bottom. I honestly, I really have nothing to say about a snare bottom mic except the fact that I usually record it and I capture it and I mute it. And then I go with God. Like seriously, man, it's just,
Sure.
I generally just don't need it. But, you know, I always record it as a backup and then two. So you usually have to flip the phase on the snare bottom. So that's the phase is flipped. Now you hear the drum got bigger.
Yep.
Small, big. And then I'm going to record because, let's go down. There we go. Sound good. Yeah. The kick is fine, but funny enough, so what I always do, and then you can hear it too, but notice my snares, they're out of, the polarity's wrong. Probably a cable, probably something weird in the patch bay.
Right.
So in that instance, but more importantly, you can hear it's a little smaller sounding. Now it's a little bigger sounding. Obviously the speaker is sucking. Now the speaker is pushing. So there is a way to, and then once, but usually that's what I like to do is I always have a session going and I can just check my drum polarity. There we go. Now now I know my kick's pushing air, my snare's pushing air. Which is what I want. I want air. Now in this case, the snare, bottom snare is just so, like, that's respectable. And the Joey's rimming it right now. There he goes. Just out of curiosity. So there you go, kick snare. Ah. No compression yet. And I know, I feel like I could add more low end to the kick, like if I was going to start EQing. But then again, so that's the 308, the Clarion on the kick, the snare top, the 208 on the snare top, the 120 on the bottom, and then the Eden. So let's solo up the Eden real quick. Phase is correct. Whoops. It's weird. I'm really liking the Clarion. The 208's kind of, it has this pointy thing, which is kind of cool, but I'm really favoring the Clarion more than the 208 on the kick. And then, so you're kind of hearing like the mono overhead, how it's, I mean, yeah, I'm getting cymbals in there, I'm getting the toms in there, but at the same token, it's got kind of a cool character of the kick drum, like you're standing in front of the kick drum, you're picking that up, but then as well, you're picking up the build up of the snare. See how small snare got small? Now the snare feels bigger.
Yep.
And that increases if I start processing like compression or EQ. So let's do, that feels genius. Let's get the hi-hat. "90% of the time, the drummer, the musician stops playing when I go. Always. Always. It's amazing. You know, the guitar's just jamming away. I go to check phase on his mic. He stops and sets with his pedal board. It's always like, it's hilarious how that. So there's the hat. And there's just going to be a bunch of bleed.
Right.
But the hats are sounding good. The instrument itself sound really good.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, dude, there's your drum sound. You know what I mean? We haven't even started adding the fun parts in. So, but just out of curiosity, like let's solo up the room, the overhead, the stereo overhead, sorry. First of all, dude, overheads are a tough beast it's a tough beast to tame, which is why usually I like Coles on overheads. But a lot of ribbons are jacked up. And then if you don't have cloud lifters laying around, which I have some, you're cranking up your gain all the way up to 70 dB, and then you're emphasizing your noise floor. So that's why generally, like, a condenser is rad, but the condensers can be cold and harsh, especially with cymbals and overheads, which is one of the biggest reasons I love the 220s on overheads, because they sound so silky and smooth. And you can hear it, Brian. The imaging is fantastic. So obviously, that's equal gain and equal level, and I panned it hard left and right in the speakers at the moment. But if I add it, phases.
It's a fun kit.
Yeah. And then, of course, as I start, right? And that's like that's a perfect, great drum sound. You can just go with God. But we're not done here at Camp Chaos. So I think what I'm going to do is for, oh dude, that's just so rad.
It's so much fun. It's like impossible not to.
Yeah, you just like, oh, I think I just filled 2 bars ago. Well, let me just fill again. Fine.
Yeah, they're here. They're just.
They're screaming.
They're like, if you don't.
I
hit
understand the song now. Yeah, why you did what you did. You're
Yeah.
just like, I can't help it.
Yeah, no, he couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing. He can do it and pull it off.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Joey,
Yeah.
can you do I'm so sorry, just for level, can you do the boring tom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, you know what I mean, down the row?
Oh yeah, of course.
Just for level?
Do you want me to stick or go through them? Probably like.
Yeah, let's do that first, and then I have you slowly go around.
Okay.
So right now you're just checking for level.
Yeah.
Making sure everything.
Actually, dude, would you, since there's 20 of them, do me a, would you just, tom 1, please, only for a moment.
Right on.
And then the great things about the condensers is I have tons of gain. No noise floor issues on this stuff. Cool, dude. Tom 2. Now, depending on the instrument, though. There we go. Oh, Joey, hit Tom 1 again. So now Tom 3 me, please.
Tom 3.
Yeah. Oh, that's me. There we go. 4. And then usually the floor, I have to add a little bit more gain. They just don't have the attack that the. So Tom 5. You? Oh, there it is. All right, dude. Now give me Around the World. Yeah, but in this case, it's that. Usually the 4,
Yeah, I hear it.
I always have to give it more juice.
Haha.
Hold on for you.
He's off and running now.
All right, dude, do Around the World in your head now.
Are you? Okay.
That's a song. How's that in your cans?
What's that?
How's that in your cans?
Oh, sick.
Yeah, could you more time? Yes. Thanks. Now, the room is live,
Right.
so you're hearing that breath just in the overheads. Sorry, I got a mono overhead keeps poking out. It's how often does this shit happen here? Never. Not often enough, that's right.
Why do we love that so much?
Huh?
Why do we love that so much?
It's just rad as fuck, dude. This is the point where you sort of just have to ask yourself, you know, if this was, no, we want the drums to be live, then we're fine. But if you're like, no, I need the drums to be a little more tight and contained, we'd have to have some serious conversations because there's, with how much room is spilling into the overheads.
Right.
I mean, there's a breath, and there's no room mics going on yet.
Oh wow. Okay.
But does it sound good? Yes. But is it like just dry in your face? No, it is not. So that's a conversation of, which wouldn't take that long to do, of like, well, maybe we should go in the booth. And that happens all the time in the studio.
Interesting.
You know, the producer, artist makes a decision like, no, I think I want everybody, and then they hear it and they go, oh, no, that wasn't what I was thinking at all. Even though you had a conversation, I had a conversation with, is that what you want?
Right.
Yes, that's what I want. But then they hear it and go, oh, no, that is not what I want. But, you know, Oliver and I could move, and Joey, we could move the kit in there like 15 minutes. No, remic it, everything.
Right.
I got sounds.
Right.
It's just moving, da-da-da. So,
But
carrying,
let's say in this scenario, we can't fix that. We don't have a choice. This is it.
well, okay, so there's tricks. You can record it as is, and then there is de-reverb plugins that do exist. None of them are DSPs, so they're all native. You have to do it post.
Right.
But, well, I could just show you. Hey, Joey, just going to do a quick playback. The drums sound amazing.
Right.
There's no room mics in the mix yet, but it's
That's no room mics.
that's no room mics. Yeah, this room is live. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
but this is where I'd have the conversation with the artist of like, or the producer.
Yeah.
Do you like what's going on? Mind you, most of that stuff's going to get chewed up with guitars and vocals, like you really won't hear it. But if it is not the tonality of the drums that you're looking for, then it's time to have a conversation about like, well, maybe unfortunately we got to move them to the booth, like to go dry.
Right. That room is not going away.
No,
Wow. So wait, what is it specifically in? I mean,
the
everything.
overheads. Like, so if I mute the stereo overheads,
That's the mono.
that's just the mono overhead.
Jesus.
Wait, didn't you throw one in Omni? You were just for shits and giggles?
That's the room mics, which we haven't heard yet.
Okay.
That's just the
Mono overhead.
Dang. Is that soloed?
No, it's the kick, snare, toms, hat, mono overhead.
And when you take, what happens when you take it out? So no overheads at all.
Still a smidge of breath.
So interesting, isn't it?
Which is
You
a
could
good.
get away with that.
You get away with
maybe.
this, which is a good reason of like how, dude. I know. Which is a good conversational piece of how important what you're trying to achieve. Your room really affects the room you're recording in. Really affects the outcome of what you're trying to achieve. But there's ways to get rid of it, luckily, fortunately.
Right.
De-reverbing. RX is another one. You can take out ambience.
Now, is this because of where it is in the room, do you think?
No,
No, nothing to do with that. Okay.
it's
'Cause
just
I know it's a little different than where you usually put it.
the room is live. So that's the room mono in Omni. It's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
But notice Joey's playing his cymbals and hear how
Yeah.
there's not a lot of. He did a crash there. I'm barely getting any. Let's see how it sits in the mix. Up. But let me check. Oh. Yep. It's a face. One more time for that. So that there comes this time of when you start adding room mics in of how much focal point do you want the direct kick drum to be versus how much room is pushed. It's a balance, and the balance changes as soon as you add a bass, as soon as you add a guitar, as soon as you add another guitar.
So you may change it.
I'm always yeah.
Understood.
Everybody's fighting for space,
Yeah.
but I could do this. So that's a model. Let's see what happens with the stereo rooms.
Now, your stereo rooms are the stereo floors.
Yep, the 320s. And those are what? Fixed cardioid, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. But you know how much kick's in there? There you go. And then, you know, you can add, just turn the rooms down 10 dB. There you go. I think people, or you know, they're so focused on the arrangement, the song itself, that they're not thinking of like, I'm over here sonically painting brush strokes,
Yeah, they don't want to think about it.
and you know, if the bass isn't the right thickness, it's, you know, everything's going to bleed through later on, so to speak.
Right.
So if I get the toms sounding really big, when I add the bass in, the toms don't get smaller. When I add a guitar in, the toms don't get smaller. It's that forward thinking. Yeah, and quite frankly, it kind of learns from mixing. When you learn how to mix, you learn like, that's not big enough. I haven't even heard the bass yet. The kick and toms are not big enough to compete with where I think the bass should be in my head. And so I make them, okay, that's feeling better. Size-wise, let me add the bass. Okay, I've added the bass, but actually the toms sound a little small now. Add more. Okay, cool. That's gelling. Let me add guitars. Oh, now the snare sounds small, even though an hour ago I spent some time making the snare big and fat. It's a sonic.
Jenga.
Yeah, Jenga. So.
It's like impossible to stop.
Yeah. It's clearly, it was impossible to stop filling.
It was impossible. And then after that tour, I guess, I don't know, I mean, I can't speak for Beck, but he's just inspired all the time. So he was like, let's go in the studio, bring that kit. And then he was like, you know, here's the idea.
We did a couple takes, but the thing was, if you remember, we cut the song, then went away, and then a couple weeks later, came back to the studio and recut it. The arrangement changed. Some, like quarterly, or I can't remember exactly. Remember, we did it twice, dude.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, so in a weird way, the first time, you know, was rad and off the cuff, but then you were like, oh, well, I know what I'm doing now. So then.
Oh, okay. Oh my God.
The second time was even more like you and Faulkner really knew the game plan. So it became even more solidified.
Whoa, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we actually went back and did it.
Yeah. I
Fascinating.
think it was a chord structure thing.